all the organizations on this panel are looking to, support the government in adapting, scaling, and I think just contextualizing this approach based on the realities, the challenges faced in specific states. There are innovative strategies, new layers being added to the program, which I think we'd really love to hear about as part of this panel, even as, we are preserving some of the key core components that Professor Banerjee spoke about. I think equally important is for us to all openly share challenges that are faced on ground and learn from each other so that all of us can support each other as we jointly figure this mammoth ambitious task of scaling and realizing the sub-scheme of Samaveshi Ajivika Yojana. So I'll start with Mahua ji, if you may. Sure. So I think Bihar is one of the first states to have integrated the graduation approach within the existing programs of Jivika to support, provide the support net to the ultra-poor. What features of Jivika's, this broad-based institutional network, which is just so powerful, have helped to take this approach to scale now almost 200,000 households?
First of all, thank you to J. Paul for giving me this opportunity to share Jivika's Satat Jivikoparjan Yojana. To just begin with a little context as how the SJY program started, we in Jivika from 2007 had been continuously working on inclusion of the poor. So we had several policies of participatory inclusion of poor, incentivizing the community resource persons to include the most vulnerable. And that is how, as of date today, in the entire country, we have more than 98% of the total population of SC and STs included in our self-help group program. But our continuous process monitoring partner were continuously telling us that there are still 2% of the population in the villages which are being left out. And then again, a new policy would come in and we would again start working on including them in our SHG fold. But then we started realizing that maybe the SHG program is not fit for them. So we need a more nuanced program for very poor families. And that is how we started piloting this targeted household poor program with Bandhan Ko Nagar. And then we had Abhijit sir also who was doing this study, and we got a lot of insights then. And that was the time when prohibition also was declared in Bihar. And a Pasi community, which is basically working on toddy tapping and country liquor making, were severely affected because they lost their livelihoods. And the government then asked Jivika to frame a program to include them in the livelihood program. So we started again trying to include them in the SHG fold, trying to give them alternative livelihood support. Then we realized it's not about including them in the program, but it's about, yes, they had some capacities, they had some capabilities, but they are not being able to negotiate their capabilities in the market now. So it is more important to understand how to help these people to negotiate in the market, to negotiate with the environment altogether. And that is how we started working in this program. And the features that majorly we worked on was on the entirely social network that we created in the 3-tier SHG, village organization, and cluster level federation program, where our village organizations were so equipped and they were doing participatory inclusion of poverty programs. So they were the people. And again here, when we designed the program of Satat Jivikoparjan Yojana, that was a grant-based program to an individual. But NRLM never gives a grant to an individual. It gives a grant to the group. To place that in that particular situation, in that premises itself, was a challenge. And then our community based organizations came into play. And we involved our village organizations in identifying the recipients of the Satat Jivikoparjan Yojana. So we designed a program in which they would identify them, endorse them, and then go ahead. We also made use of our community resource persons. We again believe is capacity building is primary to include work in the poverty reduction program, and it needs to be community managed and community owned. And that is the reason we trained our community resource persons. But here we needed mentors, which is a little higher order job than what we were doing with the community resource persons. But over a period of 6 years of continuous training of our community resource persons, they could graduate to the master resource person and provide that mentoring support. So this was the second thing. The third aspect is that we were all working on various livelihoods. So we have livestock-based livelihood theme, we have farm-based livelihood theme, and we took support of the entire vertical, the themes that were working on our livestock promotion for the Satat Jivikoparjan Yojana. So they designed programs for us. We also had the Pashu Shakhi model, which was again used here in the Satat Jivikoparjan Yojana. I see Tini smiling. Yes, we had partnered with Aga Khan and we had learned from them. And then the insurance, the cattle insurance processes also, we just copy-paste what we did in NRLM. So that helped us in jumping into and scaling into the program and the learning curve being much, much lesser. So these were the major features that we integrated in our entire Satat Jivikoparjan Yojana.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful on how you have combined the policy window with existing efforts and really to try and institutionalize the model within Jivika's work. I'd next turn to Vishal. I think since the inception in 2006, Bandhan has adapted the graduation approach through the Targeting the Hardcore Poor program across sort of 13 states. What are the strategies that you have used in effectively scaling this approach and also moving it? So one is your own Bandhan-led models and direct implementation model, but then also when you have worked with Jivika to translate that into the government fold, what were some of the key lessons?
Thank you, J-Paul, for inviting me here, and also for the long association that we have, almost around 18 to 19 years now. So at the outset, I'll just like to say that the first pilot was done by Bandhan in 2006 in Murshidabad district of West Bengal. So from the first pilot in 2006 to 2024, till now we have reached around 78 districts and 15 states in India. So how we moved from the initial 200 households to almost 1,90,000 households is in itself a very interesting story. But as I'm speaking, I'll just like to mention that the most fundamental thing that the scheme managers of Bandhan Konaga realized at that time, that to move an NGO-driven model to scale, at such a big scale, the first thing is that we need to stick to the basics of the program. So what they did was that we never experimented with the model, the original model. We never deviated with the model. So what in turn happened was that this built a lot of trust with the government, the partners and the donor agencies. This in turn helped us move to scale from West Bengal to the other states in India. This is the first thing. The second thing is that gradually when the program was growing, we also started investing in developing long-term immersion sites or sites which we can display for learning. So we invested heavily into that. And the third thing is that we also built a lot of systems, policies, procedures in place, tools and instruments. And we also retained the graduation experts. And simultaneously from the day one, J-Paul was engaged with us because they have been doing the impact assessments. So whenever it was required, we used to showcase the results of the impact, and that also helped us in growing along with. Thanks to J-Paul for that. So as of now, when I'm speaking right now, so J-Paul has been doing the impact assessment with the same set of households in the 3rd year, the 5th year, the 7th year, the 10th year, and as of now, when I'm speaking, we are right now having the 5th end line with J-Paul right now. So this was our strategy.
Thank you so much. You spoke about retaining the key evidence-based components and the key components of the program. But as you looked at the realities of multiple states, what were some of the, did you have to make tweaks as you went along, and especially when you worked in Bihar, for instance?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very good question, very interesting. Again, so when the government of Bihar decided to go ahead with this particular program, so we started with the piloting in Barsoi and Suppi block in Bihar. So initially, even the government of Bihar was not ready to accept that there are actually ultra poor in Bihar. So we did the targeting selection and showed them actually they are the ultra poor. So after the first pilot, and based on the impact and the studies of the JPOL, which was evidence-backed, so the government of Bihar decided to move from scale from 2,000 households. So now we moved to currently working with 2 lakh households. So definitely we changed the model. Actually, we customized it in context of Bihar also. So here what we did we tweaked some selection procedures also. We developed some specific policies and protocols which are tailor-made to suit the requirements of the households we are catering to in Bihar. So definitely we made some adaptations, but overall the original design remains the same.
Thank you so much. Really fascinating. I think SJY is really an important first collaboration of how SRLM could look at adopting and adapting the graduation approach. Now, both BRAC and Nudge are looking at taking this to the next level to 10 more states across India. So I'll now turn to Shweta just to ask, how are you approaching? BRAC has been the pioneer of the graduation approach since its inception, and all of these adaptations and across multiple countries. Through the MORD collaboration, you will be supporting 5 states in really piloting and integrating this program through their SRLMs. Given the unique challenges faced across each of these states, how are you approaching this work of adaptation and customization while still retaining the core of the program?
Thanks, and thank you so much to JPAL for inviting us here. I think the first thing to note is that, BRAC in India is a totally different creature than BRAC in Bangladesh. I mean, BRAC in Bangladesh is a world onto its own. Here we are a group of 10 people, out of a small Delhi office. So, the whole effort is to kind of leverage other organizations, leverage government systems, leverage community organizations. And so BRAC is on a new journey in India, in that sense. So I think for us, the main thing is to foster, a positive ecosystem of collaboration. And the second is that we're not sort of wedded to a model. I think the idea is to retain essential elements, but to make sure that those elements actually find newer homes and newer journeys. And I think we're trying that, and that is the main thrust, luckily for us, for NRLM as well. I think the first thing we were told by AS and JS was that please don't be wedded on any kind of imposition in any state or district. It has to be contextualized. So that is the first thing that we're moving with.
Could you give an example of how you're approaching this customization?
Okay. So, for example, for the government of Karnataka, they're very clear that this is a livelihoods program, but it's also a women's vulnerability program. So, making sure that newer forms of livelihoods are provided to women, not just livestock or enterprises. So can women drive waste management trucks? So I think for them it's a women's inclusive livelihood program. It's very clear. So it's not about just a program for women, but making sure that women are supported through this journey. So mobile creches is opening creches in Karnataka. So how can we make sure our participants are actually benefiting from those creches so that they can train for 8 hours? For Tamil Nadu, it's more of a livelihoods push and building on the VKP program that they've already done. In Telangana, it's going to be a big push for PVTG and tribal communities. And this is an unknown territory for us because these are forested populations. Some of them are in very remote districts. Professor Banerjee mentioned one such remote example in Sundarbans. But this, I mean, to think about a basket of livelihoods without disturbing their traditional way of life and making sure that their communities are respected. I think this is a new journey for us.
Thank you, Shweta. That was very insightful in understanding how you're looking at these various adaptations and the flexibility in adopting this across various states. I'll turn to you, John, next, just to understand Naj's journey on. I think you've already engaged in a few pilots, so you're, we'd really like to know about what you have learned from those pilots, and then how you're taking it to the next level when you're again, looking at scaling it in 6 states, along with NRLM. So what has your journey been? What are the key learnings from moving from pilot to a institutionalized approach to adopting the graduation approach?
All right. No, thanks first of all for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here and sharing our experiences. I mean, our journey has been relatively short in that we started our work on this approach in 2018 in India, much after Bandhan and JPAL, SJY had already started the program. For us, it was really about going to the ground, testing the model for ourselves, learning, seeing if we can do it first. Second year of the program, COVID hit, and we were worried for the pilot. But when we looked at the data at the end of the year, the midline and the endline data were very positive. For us, that was great news. And so we started investing more in taking this model to multiple states. We have tweaked the model, played around with it, but like Vishal said, we have kept the principles of design very simple, and we have not changed that around much. By that I mean that in Jharkhand, for example, then we went to the Ministry of Rural Development. We got the support of Charanjit Sir, Smriti ma'am, and we've been working with the state rural livelihood missions to help them adopt. Now, there are little tweaks everywhere, to contextualize to that state rural livelihood missions constraints, existing capacities, vulnerabilities of the population on the ground. But all the while tweaking the design, we make sure that it has to work in vivo inside the SRLM within the constraints. An example of contextualizing even selection criteria would be, Jharkhand said, okay, any household that has been affected by witch hunting, for example, has to be selected automatically and included automatically. Now, how do you integrate that into a process and make this part of a digital first selection tech app? Is something that we had to think hard about, because every state had this nuance. In Meghalaya, who they consider as the poorest of the poor are single mothers. And so how do you bring that in? So there's a lot of contextualization and tweaking just in the selection process. Even when it comes to distribution of the consumption support grant and breathing space, every state wants to do it differently. Some states want to do it every month. Some states want to give it upfront. livelihood models, there we said, look, this is not something that the nudge can bring to the table right away. So we have chosen local non-profits who've been working there for ages, who understood livelihoods in that area and partnered with them, and they've sort of researched the livelihood models that can work for the poorest of the poor, and we are integrating that into the design. I think what's allowing us to do that is sticking to the principles, as Vishal said, but also the use of tech and to both train the last mile field staff. But maybe I can talk about that later.
Oh, that will be really exciting for all of us to hear. Can you just elaborate on how you're integrating tech within the model?
Yeah. All right. I don't want to. I would love to listen to the other panelists as well, but I'll take a few minutes to talk about that. Ma'am spoke about Sarathi already. So at the very beginning, we were asked to build tech and integrate it from day one. And so we went about developing a product. We learned a lot from SJY. The idea is to build a national tech platform that every state can use. But what do we build and why do we build this? One is, of course, monitoring, collecting data from the ground, ensuring transparencies at all levels so that there is enough confidence, ability to respond, ability of the SRLM and the field cadre to respond. But what we also saw was that the job of the field cadre is to ensure implementation with sufficient quality of the 6 different elements that we saw at the beginning of the program. And every week the field staff goes, they will have to decide, okay, with these group of 5 to 10 women, what do I do today? Do I talk to them about nutrition? This particular Didi needs kitchen garden support, this particular Didi needs her support with her goats, this particular Didi needs bank account. Even for the field cadre, who is typically a 10th to 12th pass person, it's hard to manage 5, 6, 7 different things multiplied by 5 Didis in that village. So how do you really reduce the cognitive load of the field cadre by simplifying the tasks, breaking it down to manageable missions, activities and tasks is really one of the key elements. The other thing that we have realized is that given the geographies that we work in, especially in the Northeast, you're only able to bring the staff to a common place for training, let's say once every 2 months. And you're only able to keep the staff, a lot of them women, for about 2 days. So, and we know that there is decay of learning after a residential training is done. But you know that in a month they will have to go back to the field and train. So what the app is really trying to do is just-in-time micro learning modules for the field staff. So I'm going to go and coach women on, let's say, shed construction. Can I just see a quick video of that? And I think at a larger scale, because it's a complex program, the tasks are interconnected, interdependent, and therefore a failure of one part somewhere, let's say the livelihood design wasn't done right, there is not much you can gain from doing coaching on a wrong livelihood design. But you can gain a lot by even marginal improvements in improving skill sets that has multiplier effects of imparting skills, confidence, facilitation, etc. So that's really what we are trying to solve through tech. It's some time to go, but we're working very closely with the ministry, with the SRLMs to see if we can bring a very simple product to the field.
I just wanted to also interject that, for us, the technology is sort of a tertiary part of this program. I think the beauty of the program is the human element. So the coaching, the one-on-one, the hand-holding is something that we are trying to retain as an essential element. Of course, also learning, and we're also using Nudges, Sarthi app and everything. So that's very much part of it. But the essence is the human.
interesting. Thanks for throwing light on that, John and Shweta. I'll turn to Mahua now. You have been using tech, but more from the monitoring, the MIS, the rich MIS that Jivika has created, and to track the implementation of SJY across the multiple years, and also, looking at the data being collected through, JPAL surveys. 16 rounds of surveys have happened. So how have you been using all of this to inform and refine implementation, or take some important calls on, tweaks that have to be made at regular intervals? Can you give a few examples of how you're thinking about it?
Yeah, of course, MIS is a technology intervention, but apart from technology, MIS in technology, we have introduced also digital platforms for learning. So we have engaged with CSEB, who have developed videos on how to negotiate, how to build capacities, how to build confidence, the softer part that we were talking about, the psychosocial aspect of confidence building. They are in a place where they are totally helpless and hopeless, and from there you need to build confidence, you need to touch base with them every day. And then through some animated films, our MRPs, when they go to the for household visit, they show these videos to them, and they start relating with them that this particular Didi is in the same place. I can give you an example of one Munni Didi story, which is an animated film. She used to have a kirana dukan, and because there were several other kirana dukan in that particular area, and she had little negotiation skills, so that was not running well. So then the MRPs asks that, okay, in the morning and the evening you run the kirana shop. In the afternoon, why don't you go and sell, do hawking? And she went and did hawking. And morning and evening, her husband used to run the shop. And that is how she could refill her kirana shop again, because all her she had no capital left to buy a new set of products. So that's an animated film where we are trying to tell them that this could be a challenge that you face, but this could be an alternative. But in your context, you think what could be your alternative. So that's how you are triggering capacities, you're triggering thought process and decision making at that level. So we have used technology there as well. And on the other hand, we have used a lot of JPAL case studies in our training programs. So when one person goes and talks about her experience, we use this experience sharing or storytelling sort of a thing with the others. Now it's because we are in big scale, so it's not always possible for a Didi to take in person to go and talk. So we do a video, we do 2 minutes bite with them, and then we use this as a training program. The second part is, yes, we have a very strong MIS, and our MIS is such that it is GPS enabled. So we can even see that where is this particular household. And then now we have also tried to develop a field reporter app where our MRPs are actually using this app. And then we have now Didi Ki Awaaz as a new app which is coming out, which is an analytical data for our CBOs to monitor. Yes, we have first drilled down till our district level coordinators, our SJY nodals at the districts to understand from the MIS and the progress review based on those MIS data. But now again going down to how should a CBO monitor a MRP functioning? How can a MRP actually see that which of my household is progressing and which is not progressing? We have a grading tool of our households. Like, there is a situation, in such a situation when you are working with extreme poor and you are continuously working with them, they are moving forward, they are coming into A and A grade, and we are very hopeful that they would be, after 24 months, we would graduate them. And suddenly a great shock comes to that family and he tilts down to B. Now, what should the MRP then do? that trigger is being seen by the MRP today, and then he or she can plan accordingly that what sort of next steps can be taken to support that family. So this is how we are working on this, and Bandhan Kurnagar, and we have this frame who has developed these apps for us, and we have the Didi Ki Awaaz coming out very, very strongly, which is helping in the analytical aspects where the CBOs are providing the taking decisions that what the MRPs needs to do next.
I'll just quickly add 3 points. Of course, we are using the MIS for informed decision making. So every month we are recording the transactions of around 1,80,000 households in the MIS. So right now, the MIS can tell us which are the ideally paced households, who are the middle movers, and who are the slow movers. This is the one thing. So the scheme managers of Jivika and Bandhan at the district level, at the state level, and at the block level, they are actually able to see and go down till the panchayat level, who are the households of which cohort and how they are doing at this point in time. Second thing, in the MIS, we have incorporated something called a service improvement unit. So the service improvement unit is able to tell us today that which are the households who need to be tagged with the MRPs, where we need to recruit the master resource persons. And additionally, as madam has said, that at CBO level, we have the dashboard for the CBO. So today my CLFs can see for themselves who are the households whose grade has shifted, who have not received the assets, who are the non-performing MRPs. So this is how we are utilizing the MIS for the informed decision making.
Very interesting. Thank you for shedding light on that, Vishal and Mahua. I think just one follow-up question, and probably this is my last question, and maybe we can open it up for just 1 or 2 questions from the audience post that. And that's to both of you again. What is, you have been working across 6 years with this program in Bihar. What does sustainability look like to you? What is a model which is truly integrated? And Bandhan, what is your plan in terms of, facilitating, integration, and what does the long run look like for you?
Almost since the inception of the program, we always started thinking about the long-term sustainability of the program, because one day Bandhan support will also go and Jivika will also maybe not be providing support of the master resource person. So for the long-term sustainability of the program, and even for other states also, we need to have the protocol, or we need to have some strategy how we are going to hand over these households to the CBOs. Ultimately, I think that for any state agency to be driving this program at such a scale, you need to have a strategy first in place to be able to hand over these households to the CBOs, where the CBOs are able to manage the day-to-day operations, not the micromanagement of the household, but of course how they are doing in the enterprise, their conversions and all these things. So here again, the dashboard for the CBOs is again coming into play in a very effective manner. First thing, that the system we have already put in place. Simultaneously, we are already coming up with an exit strategy and a post-graduation support strategy. How we are going to withdraw the support in the long run, how the CBOs are going to manage the program. But for the CBOs to be able to efficiently manage the program, the CBOs need to have a fair understanding about the program, all the components of the program, how they are going to look after the MRPs, how they are going to look actually about the, maybe the loss of assets, what is going to be. So we have already started building the capacity of the CBOs.
Interesting.
Yes, right from the beginning, we had this. We had included our community-based organizations right from the beginning, while endorsing the households to asset transfer, because the procurement process is also done by our community institutions. So they are into this process of graduation right from the beginning, and we also have done a lot of convergence work. We have converged with social welfare department, with the rural development department. We are trying to include them in the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, those who are eligible. Also built sheds, poultry sheds and dairy sheds under the Manrega program. So we have been continuously advocating and policy advocacy at that level. And we are now having a gender resource center also. Now we are also looking at how these aspects can be surfaced in the gender resource center platform, and also the rights and entitlements that they are entitled to, how those can reach to them. So these Jivika is having a level, multi-departmental collaborations in doing these convergence program. But the only thing is that we had right from the beginning thought the sustenance would happen only when they become active members of the SHGs and become the leaders in the SHGs. So we are looking forward when our graduated SJY Didis would be the leaders and board members in the CLF. Looking at
Thank you so much. I have been given the stop sign. So unfortunately, we will move the Q&A to dinner because all of us are going to be here. So you can pose your questions to the panelists at that forum. But thank you so much for this very enriching discussion on, I think this reflects the power of collaboration, the technical support that is being provided by all the implementing organizations, the importance of data informing, implementation at a real-time basis, and of innovation and flexibility in adapting while still retaining some core elements of the approach. So thank you very much.